Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of Burns Banter, the podcast that takes a fresh look at the life and works of Robert Burns, hosted by myself, Alistair Turnbull. In this episode, I'm looking at Robert Burns's most famous song. The song is Auld Lang Syne, the song that we all sing at New Year and at other family events and gatherings. Now, I'm going to ask a few questions about this. Did Robert write it? Where did the lyrics come from? Where did the music come from? And then, how did it become so popular? Why do we sing it so much today? Then I'm going to read the original song to you and a modern translation and possibly play a recording of the song itself. So let's dive in and start asking the questions. So question number 1. Did Robert Burns write the song Auld Lang Syne or Auld Lang Syne? And the answer is no, he didn't write it. What he did was, he heard an old man sing it, and he took down the words of it, and he gave it to a guy called George Thomson to put into a book called the Scots Musical Museum. Now, Burns did a lot of collecting of songs towards the end of his life to try and protect and preserve the Scottish culture. Auld Lang Syne was one of them. Now that brings us to the question, if the old guy was singing it, where did he hear it from? Now the most likely place that he heard it from was from a poem written by a guy called Sir Robert Ayton. He was born in 1750 in Fife, and he went to St Andrews University and eventually joined the royal court of King James VI in England. And he wrote a poem called Auld Lang Syne, and if you look at the words of his poem, it's practically identical to Auld Lang Syne, bar a few words here and there. Another source is possibly Alan Ramsay, another poet. He wrote a poem called Auld Lang Syne, but apart from the first line, which is Auld Lang Syne, his poem bears no resemblance to the poem we hear today. So what I think has happened is this old guy that Burns met in the street or met in a pub singing this song has probably remembered a version of Robert Ayton's song Auld Lang Syne, put a few Scots words in, probably changed things along the way a bit, and he's now singing a version that he knows from his local pub. I think that's where the lyrics came from. So Robert Ayton actually wrote it around about 1680. We would never have heard it unless Burns had taken those words from the old guy and put it into the book, the Scots Musical Museum. So Burns really played a large part in this song by preserving it and giving it to us today. The music. Where'd the music come from? Well, the music was originally a Strathspey reel from round about, again, 1680 to the early 1700s. And the Strathspey reel was either called The Miller's Wedding or The Miller's Daughter. And someone has taken that Strathspey reel, which is Strathspey reels are fiddle tunes that are played really quickly, and they've taken it and slowed it down to they've slowed it down to that. The version that we hear today was originally put into the Scots Musical Museum and printed in 1799 when George Thomson put the words from Auld Lang Syne and that music together. Now that music was actually arranged by Joseph Haydn, the composer. George Thomson had asked Haydn to do arrangements for about 400 Scottish songs to put in his books, the Scots Musical Museum, and Auld Lang Syne was one of them. But Haydn had taken the original Strathspey melody and made an arrangement of it. So it's an original Scottish song arranged by Haydn, put into a book. When Burns put it into the book, he had a different tune with it altogether. He wouldn't have recognised the tune we're using today. So, ancient words, ancient music, it's in a book called the Scots Musical Museum. Let's have a look at the words right now. Okay, let's look at the words. Auld Lang Syne. That literally translates as old long since. Now that doesn't mean anything, but the translation should be for old time's sake. That's what the meaning is. That's what the essence of it is. Auld Lang Syne is, in essence, for old time's sake. A song making us look at things that have gone by, maybe in our childhood or throughout our life. Now let's look at the verses. I'm not going to read the old version and the modern version. I think I'm going to just read the old version and then tell you what it means. Okay? So the first verse goes, should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot and days o' Auld Lang Syne. Pardon me. This means, should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot and days of Auld Lang Syne. Old, times long ago. The second verse is, the chorus is, for Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll tak a cup o' kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. This just means, for Auld Lang Syne, which for old time's sake, we'll take a good drink together, for old time's sake. Next verse, we twae hae run about the braes and put the gowans fine, but we've wandered mony a weary foot sin' Auld Lang Syne. That's the original Scots. It really means, we too have run about the hills and pulled the daisies out, and we've wandered many, many miles since those days have gone past, is what it's saying. It's probably talking about two younger kids who played together and, in the hills and stuff like that and had a good time, but since then they've parted. The next verse, we twa hae paddled in the burn frae morning sun till dine, but seas between us braid hae roared sin' Auld Lang Syne. That means we two have paddled in the stream from morning time till dinner time, and seas between us now have roared since Auld Lang Syne. Probably means that since their childhood they've parted. Maybe one's gone to a different continent than the other, but they've travelled many miles apart and hadn't seen each other for a long time. Next verse, this is an important verse. And there's a hon, my trusty fear, and gie's a hon o' thine, and we'll tak a right good willy wacht for Auld Lang Syne. A lot of words in there you're not going to understand. It basically means, and there's a hand, my trusty friend, and give me a hand of yours. And we'll tak a right good willy wacht. It means we'll just take a good drink together. That's all. We'll have a good drink together for old time's sake. Now, this is an important verse in the song, because this is when if you're standing in a circle, which most Scots people do, they stand in a circle, they then exchange hands over and grab hands and shake hands and all the rest of it with two hands, one to the left, one to the right, and they walk in and out of the circle, in at the circle. It becomes more of a dance than a song after that. And basically, it just, the last verse is, and surely you'll be your pint stoop, and surely I'll be mine, and we'll tak a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. Well, that means, and surely you'll buy your pint cup, and surely I'll buy mine. And we'll take a cup of kindness yet, as again, we'll just have a good drink and talk about old times. And usually the chorus is repeated a good number of times after that, whilst people dance in and out of the circle and back and forward and all the rest of it. It's usually sung at the end of weddings or gatherings or parties, and of course at New Year. So we talked about the melody, we talked about the words. Let's talk about how it became famous in the rest of the world. Right, so how did a song in an old dusty book called the Scots Musical Museum become famous the world over? How did it become, and this is a Guinness Book of Record facts, how did it become the second most sung song in the English language ever? By the way, the first most sung song in the English language is Happy Birthday. Well, I'll tell you why. The Scots people have a big tradition of leaving Scotland and going and settling in other countries. And they did a lot of that. And a lot of people from Scotland went to Canada and settled around about Nova Scotia and various areas of Canada. And they took their traditions and songs with them. They sang the songs at the end of parties. They kept on singing these songs. They kept them alive orally through the oral tradition. And about early 1900s, in I think it was a place called London, Ontario, a young boy was introduced to all these songs. He was brought up close to a lot of Scottish people, and he went to weddings with the Scottish people. He went to parties, and at the end of the weddings or parties, they would sing the song Auld Lang Syne as a song of parting, a song of going away. So he always just knew it as an end of the night, end of the event song. That young guy was called Guy Lombardo, and he then grew up and became the leader of a big band or an orchestra called Guy Lombardo and the Royal Canadians. He was asked to do a radio show, and I think it was 1929, could have been 1928, 1929, and it was getting recorded at the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan, and it went out all over America. And he was wondering what song to do to bring in the new year, because it was a New Year show. And he thought back to the song that the Scots used to do at the end of the parties and all the rest of it. He said, I'll do Auld Lang Syne. So in 1929, when the bells rang to bring in 1930, Guy Lombardo and his band played Auld Lang Syne. Now, they continued doing this for the next 30 years. Every time at New Year, it was Auld Lang Syne coming in, and other radio and TV presenters were doing exactly the same. They took Auld Lang Syne and made it the New Year song. But more than that, so lots of people are now hearing it. There are lots of people hearing it all over America and all over the world through radio and TV and all the rest of it. People were putting it in films. It's in the highly emotional scenes in classic films like It's a Wonderful Life. Maybe When Harry Met Sally, it's in there. So it started to make its way into popular culture as well. But not just America. It was the tune and the songs were taken over to Asia, to Russia. South Korea used the tune of Auld Lang Syne as its national anthem for years. So did the Maldives. Everybody has had a version of Auld Lang Syne. Everybody from Elvis Presley to Peanuts the cartoon. Jimi Hendrix has had a version of Auld Lang Syne. As a matter of fact, Beethoven did a version of Auld Lang Syne. He did 12 Scottish songs in 1814, and one of them was Auld Lang Syne, a composition taken again from the original Strasbourg Reel. So everybody from Beethoven to Hendrix has done Auld Lang Syne. So it just becomes so popular. It means so much to so many people. I don't know what else to say about Auld Lang Syne. It's out there now. It's got a life of its own. It carries on. And I hope that you're going to be singing it in the New Year, which is coming up pretty soon. So I'm going to leave you with a recording that I did of Auld Lang Syne just a couple of days ago. I was asked to play an acoustic night in my local town. It was a charity night for the local food bank where we raised a few £100 or whatever. And it all went to the food bank. But at the end of the night, I played Auld Lang Syne and I recorded it. So I'm going to say cheerio to you just now, and I hope you have a good new year, and I hope you enjoy Auld Lang Syne, which is coming up next. Should all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Trust me, friend, and here's a hand on line. We'll take a couple kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. No, I want to see people on the floor. This is the last one. It's a traditional to get a wee circle on the floor, okay? I'm pretty sure you guys are up for it, okay? I want to sing it one more time. Here we go with the old single again. For all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind. Should all acquaintance be forgot for Auld Lang
Syne. Come on. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup of kindness and for Auld Lang Syne. Let me hear you. Happy 2024 to everybody when it comes, okay?